The morning dawned clear and crisp over Lake Geneva, a perfect backdrop for humanity's most significant moment. Crowds gathered behind security barriers, their excited murmurs creating a constant hum that television microphones struggled to filter out. News anchors from every nation maintained professional composure despite the historical gravity weighing on their voices. "The alien vessel is beginning its descent," announced the BBC correspondent, her eyes tracking the gleaming object that reflected sunlight in prismatic patterns, never before seen in Earth's atmosphere. The Aldebaran ship, designation * Stellar Harmony *, measured nearly 200 meters from bow to stern, its hull composed of layered materials that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. It generated no visible propulsion exhaust, created no sonic boom, and registered only minimal electromagnetic disturbance as it settled onto the specially constructed landing platform. For 17 minutes, nothing happened. The world held its breath. Then, with graceful precision, a section of the hull reconfigured itself into an elegant ramp. Ambassador Zex Terry emerged, flanked by representatives from 6 other species. Standing nearly 2.5 meters tall, the Aldebarani ambassador possessed iridescent skin that rippled with colors corresponding to subtle emotional states. The delegation paused at the top of the ramp, allowing Earth's cameras to capture this watershed moment. "Greetings, people of Earth," Zex Terra spoke, the translator device at their throat converting alien vocalizations into flawless English. "We come in peace and friendship as representatives of the Galactic Confederacy." Commander Elena Reyes stepped forward from the human delegation. At 46, the veteran diplomat had negotiated peace between nations on the brink of war, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Her simple charcoal suit contrasted with the ornate biomechanical garments of the alien representatives. "Ambassador Zex Terra, on behalf of Earth, welcome," she replied, executing the ceremonial hand gesture the Confederacy had transmitted in their preliminary communications. The formal reception proceeded into the Geneva Summit Center, a structure hastily retrofitted with environmental accommodations for the various biological needs of the alien delegation. Over the next several hours, the visitors demonstrated remarkable knowledge of Earth's cultures, languages, and political structures, knowledge that suggested decades, perhaps centuries of observation. "Your transition to clean energy solutions shows promising innovation," remarked Talvesh, the Centauri Commonwealth representative, during the technology exchange presentation. "We can offer immediate upgrades to your solar collection efficiency." The aliens unveiled technological marvels: energy matrices capable of powering entire cities, medical nanites that could eliminate most diseases, and faster-than-light communication devices that would unite Earth's most distant communities. Each presentation elicited gasps and applause from the human delegates, all except Reyes, whose diplomatic instincts have been honed through decades of negotiation. During the third day of talks, she noticed patterns in the aliens' behavior. The Aldebarani contingent grew visibly tense whenever humans mentioned their own space exploration ambitions. A subtle shifting of colors, from calm blue-green to anxious purple, rippled across Zex Terra's skin when Earth's representatives discussed their timeline for establishing permanent bases throughout their solar system. Most telling was the exchange during the afternoon session on interstellar relations. Dr. Katsumi Tanaka, Japan's leading astrophysicist, mentioned humanity's plans for a research outpost on Proxima Centauri V. "And our preliminary designs suggest we could establish sustainable habitation within 15 years, assuming adaptations to the radiation environment," Dr. Tanaka explained. Zex Terra's translator device suddenly malfunctioned, emitting a high-pitched whine. The ambassador's skin flashed a deep crimson before stabilizing. 3 of the delegation members exchanged rapid glances, and the Rigelian representative began tapping a complex pattern on the communication device strapped to their wrist. "Forgive the interruption." Zex Terra recovered smoothly. "Our translation matrices occasionally require recalibration when processing certain conceptual frameworks. Regarding extrasolar expansion, The Confederacy has established designated development sectors for emerging civilizations. Earth's assigned sector encompasses your complete solar system, quite generous by galactic standards. Reyes noted the careful phrasing. Not guidelines or recommendations, but assigned sectors. She caught the eye of General Santos from the United Earth Defense Council, who had also registered the concerning implication. Later that evening, during the cultural exchange reception, Reyes maneuvered herself into conversation with Cathal, a junior science officer from the Aldebarani contingent. Your species adapts remarkably quickly, Cathal observed, examining the array of Earth cuisines that had been modified to accommodate alien digestive systems. From primitive agriculture to molecular gastronomy in merely 10 millennia. Fascinating. We're eager explorers, Reyes replied casually. Speaking of exploration, I've always been curious about Proxima Centauri. Since it's our nearest stellar neighbor, we naturally look there first for expansion. Cathal's skin rippled with tiny flecks of yellow, anxiety indicators, according to the briefing materials. The alien checked a pulsing device on their wrist before responding. Perhaps focusing inward would be more beneficial for humanity's development at this stage, they suggested carefully. The Confederacy's protection extends fully across your solar system's boundaries. Protection from what exactly? Reyes asked, maintaining a diplomatic smile. Cathal's reply came after a calculated pause. The galaxy contains many wonders, Commander Reyes. Not all of them are benevolent. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Chen massaged his temples as he stared at the holographic display. 3 months into his assignment at the newly established Interspecies Communication Center, and the midnight shift still felt disorienting. The ICC occupied a repurposed military bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, a compromise location agreed upon by Earth's governments and the Confederacy representatives. Another routine night monitoring alien small talk, he muttered, scrolling through transmission logs. The center housed Earth's most advanced quantum computers, designed to process and analyze the staggering volume of communications between humanity and their new galactic neighbors. Chen's background in cryptographic analysis had earned him this posting, though most of his colleagues considered it ceremonial. After all, the Confederacy had emphasized the transparency of their communication systems. Chen's attention snagged on an anomaly, a fractional energy spike in the carrier wave of a standard diplomatic transmission. He might have missed it entirely if not for his hobby of collecting historical encryption methods. The pattern resembled the microdots used during Earth's Cold War era, but implemented through quantum fluctuations. Computer, isolate transmission stream Alpha 2247 and enhance quantum variance patterns, he instructed. The holographic display zoomed in, revealing subtle modulations hiding within the standard communication protocol. Data packets encrypted within encryption. Chen captured the pattern and saved it to his personal analysis drive. Over the next 3 weeks, Chen identified 17 similar transmissions, each containing hidden data embedded within seemingly routine messages. His attempts to decode them using standard algorithms failed consistently. He needed specialized help. Dr. Amara Okafor arrived at the ICC on a Tuesday morning, her credentials listing her as a consulting systems analyst. In reality, she was the architect behind Earth's most advanced quantum AI decryption systems. Before the Confederacy's arrival, her work had been classified beyond top secret. I need plausible deniability on this, she informed Chen as they descended to sublevel 3, where a secure, air-gapped system awaited. If anyone asks, we're optimizing communication protocols. The abandoned SETI facility in Puerto Rico provided their perfect cover. Officially repurposed for cultural exchange analysis, its remote dishes could intercept Confederacy transmissions without raising suspicion. The encryption is unlike anything in our databases, Okafor admitted after 2 months of failed attempts. Their quantum entanglement techniques are centuries beyond ours. Chen was organizing his collection of historical encryption methods, a hobby that had started in his academy days, when inspiration struck. He pulled out a weathered book on maritime codes. What if we're overthinking this? He wondered aloud. Advanced civilizations might use basic principles wrapped in complex implementation. Using the rhythmic patterns of old Earth naval communications as a conceptual framework, Chen and Okafor created a hybrid decryption approach. The breakthrough came during their 73rd attempt. "We've got something," Okafor whispered, her eyes reflecting scrolling alien text. Combat reports, casualty figures, evacuation orders. The fragments painted a disturbing picture. The Confederacy, despite its projected strength, was losing a massive interstellar conflict against an entity referred to only as the Convergence. Strategic retreat orders and resource allocation directives suggested a civilization fighting for survival rather than the benevolent alliance they presented to Earth. Most troubling was a classified assessment document regarding Earth itself. The translation algorithm rendered it with chilling clarity. Asterisk assessment. Sol 3. Designation. Earth asterisk. Asterisk indigenous species. Human. Homo sapiens asterisk. Asterisk technological development curve. Anomalous acceleration pattern asterisk. Asterisk threat/asset classification. Potential Omega class asterisk. Asterisk recommendation. Implementation of containment protocols mandatory asterisk. Asterisk note. Continued observation suggests unprecedented adaptation capacity. Recommend restricted technology sharing with prohibited advancement vectors asterisk. They're not here to welcome us to the galactic community, Chen realized. They're containing us. Their investigation led them to Kithal, the junior Aldebarani scientist from the first contact delegation. After 3 encrypted messages exchanged through channels designed to avoid detection, the alien agreed to meet at a remote location in the Norwegian wilderness. "Your species deserves truth," Kithal stated, their skin displaying patterns of moral conflict. "I risk everything by sharing this." The data crystal Kithal provided contained historical archives spanning 3 centuries, records of a massive galactic conflict that the Confederacy was systematically losing. The archives showed the steady retreat of Confederacy forces across dozens of star systems, abandoning entire civilizations to the advancing Convergence. "They don't conquer worlds," Kithal explained, voice trembling. "They transform them." 47 advanced civilizations, some far older than the Confederacy itself, all gone within decades of first contact. "Why keep this from us?" Okafor demanded. "Because," Kithal replied, their skin shifting to a deep indigo of resignation, "the Confederacy leadership believes humanity represents our last, desperate hope against the Convergence, and that terrifies them more than defeat." The emergency summit convened with unprecedented haste. Government leaders from every nation received the same cryptic message. Galactic security situation evolved. Immediate consultation required. Within 6 hours, the United Earth Council chamber in Geneva filled with representatives still showing signs of hasty travel, wrinkled suits, tired eyes, and concerned expressions. Commander Reyes took her position beside the Security Council chairwoman, Dr. Abigail Wong. The chamber's usual methodical procedures gave way to tense anticipation as the Confederacy delegation was announced. "They've sent Admiral Vexloreth," Reyes whispered, Supreme Military Commander of the entire Confederacy fleet. "This isn't a diplomatic visit." The chamber doors parted to reveal a delegation unlike any previous alien contingent. 12 different species entered in ceremonial formation, each representative bearing distinctive markings that Reyes recognized from briefing materials as battle honors. Admiral Vexloreth stood a full head taller than the Aldebarani ambassador, with obsidian skin that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. 4 arms emerged from a torso protected by an intricate exoskeleton that hummed with barely perceptible energy. "Representatives of Earth," the Admiral began, voice resonating through translator devices, "I come before you with matters of grave importance." The Admiral activated a device on his wrist. The chamber lights dimmed automatically as a massive holographic display materialized above the assembly. Thousands of star systems appeared, interconnected by glowing pathways representing trade routes, communication networks, and defensive boundaries. This is the known galaxy as it existed 300 cycles ago, Vexloreth explained. 87 spacefaring civilizations, 22 major alliances, 11 unaligned powers. With a gesture, the display timeline accelerated. One by one, entire clusters of stars blinked from peaceful blue to alarming red. The transformation created a visual tide of defeats sweeping inexorably across the galactic map. 47 civilizations, the Admiral continued, voice carrying unmistakable grief. Some with history stretching back millions of your years, some with defensive capabilities developed over millennia of careful advancement. A hologram zoomed to show Earth's solar system, a tiny blue dot at the galaxy's outer spiral arm, remarkably close to a red boundary that continued to expand. We have approximately 30 of your years before convergent scout vessels detect your technological signatures, Vexloreth stated. Perhaps less, given your species' remarkable rate of advancement. Dr. Wong stood, maintaining the composed demeanor that had guided Earth through its first interstellar negotiations. Admiral, we appreciate this information, but what exactly are you proposing? The Admiral gestured again, and the hologram shifted to display schematics for advanced defensive systems, planetary shields, orbital defense networks, and early warning arrays. We come prepared to offer these technologies freely, Vexloreth announced. Defensive systems beyond your current development timeline, energy production facilities, medical technologies we had previously withheld. Murmurs rippled through the human delegation. General Santos, Earth's senior military representative, leaned forward, and in exchange, containment, the Admiral replied without hesitation. You will accept these defensive technologies. You will fortify your worlds, but you must remain within your solar system's boundaries. Develop no offensive capabilities beyond your current parameters. Attempt no colonization beyond Sol. The chamber erupted in confused protests until Dr. Wong raised her hand for silence. Let me understand clearly, she said, her calm voice cutting through the tension. You're offering advanced technology in exchange for our self-imposed isolation. Are you afraid we'll join your enemy? Admiral Vexloreth's multifaceted eyes reflected the hologram's light as he responded, No, Dr. Wong. We fear what you will become if you join either side. The Admiral gestured once more, and the hologram transformed to display historical footage from Earth, innovations born from human conflicts, adaptations developed under pressure, and technological leaps achieved in response to existential threats. We have studied your history extensively, Vexloreth continued. No species in recorded galactic history has demonstrated your capacity for rapid adaptation under threat. No civilization has transformed from primitive tool use to quantum theory in such a compressed time frame. The Admiral stepped forward, lowering his voice. The convergence assimilates technological and biological advantages from every species it encounters. The Confederacy has fought using conventional military doctrine for 3 centuries. And we are losing. And humanity? Asked Reyes, finally understanding. What do you fear we would contribute to this war? Unpredictability, Vexloreth answered. Innovation under pressure. The capacity to transform defensive technology into offensive capability with terrifying speed. We are not containing you to protect Earth, Commander Reyes. We are containing you to protect the galaxy from what humanity might become if truly threatened. The secure conference room within the ICC complex fell silent as Kay Thull initialized the alien data crystal. Having been granted provisional asylum on Earth, the Aldebarani scientists now worked alongside Chen and Okafor to decode the vast Confederacy anthropological archives. 27 government officials, scientists, and military personnel leaned forward as the holographic display illuminated. What you're about to see, Cathal explained, their skin cycling through scholarly blue patterns, represents 3 centuries of covered observation and analysis of your species. The presentation began with side-by-side comparisons, cave paintings from Earth's prehistoric era alongside primitive artwork from 17 other civilizations. Timeline markers appeared, tracking developmental milestones across different species. The Aldebarani took approximately 40,000 of your years to develop rudimentary metallurgy. Kefal narrated, humans accomplished similar technological advancement in under 3,000 years. The display shifted through agricultural development, urbanization patterns, energy utilization, and information technology, each comparison showing the same accelerated human development curve. The Centauri Commonwealth, Kefal continued, spent 15 generations perfecting faster-than-light theory before attempting practical application. Your Einstein developed relativity theory in 1915. By 1994, you had hypothesized the Alcubierre warp drive. Your current experiments with quantum field manipulation suggest you might achieve practical FTL within 50 years, a development timeline considered impossible by Confederacy scientists. Dr. Eliza Kaminsky, Earth's leading quantum physicist, interrupted. These comparisons seem designed to flatter humanity. What's the actual scientific basis for this analysis? Kefal's skin rippled with appreciation for the challenge. An excellent question. The Confederacy employs a standardized developmental index across all known civilizations, measuring thousands of technological and social advancement markers. The alien activated a deeper level of data, revealing complex mathematical models comparing adaptation rates across species. Earth's line consistently showed exponential growth patterns, where others displayed linear or logarithmic advancement. Most species specialize and stabilize, Kefal explained. The Rigelian conclave perfected biological sciences, but required Aldebarani assistance to achieve space travel. The Vox Collective mastered quantum communications, but struggled with basic medical technology. Humans, uniquely, maintain advancement across all domains simultaneously. The presentation shifted to psychological profiles, stress response patterns, problem-solving methodologies, and adaptation mechanisms compared across species. This is perhaps most significant, Kefal stated, highlighting a section labeled Crisis Response Patterns. When faced with resource limitations, most species optimize existing solutions. When threatened, they enhance established defensive measures. When confronted with novel problems, they apply known methodologies iteratively. The display showed footage of human innovations during Earth's most challenging periods, improvised medical techniques during pandemics, manufacturing adaptations during resource shortages, and technological leaps during international competitions. Humans, Kefal observed, consistently develop novel approaches under pressure. You transform constraints into advantages. You repurpose existing technologies for entirely new applications. Most remarkably, you accomplish in days or weeks what our predictive models suggest should require years of dedicated development. Admiral Patel, representing Earth's unified defense forces, studied the comparative analysis with a furrowed brow. You've classified us as an emergent acceleration anomaly. What exactly does that mean? Kefal hesitated before answering. It means your species' development doesn't follow established patterns. Confederacy scientists have attempted to model your technological trajectory for over 200 years. Every predictive model has underestimated actual human advancement by significant margins. The final segment contained surveillance footage from Earth's various conflicts and challenges. The focus wasn't on destruction, but on innovation. Field hospitals developing new surgical techniques, engineers repurposing civilian infrastructure during crisis, and scientists creating breakthrough technologies under deadline pressure. The Confederacy Security Directorate maintains this classified observation, Kefal explained, highlighting analysis notes from alien military experts. They note with particular concern how humans repeatedly transform civilian technologies into defensive applications under pressure. What might take our engineering teams careful planning and specialized development cycles, humans accomplish through improvisation and cross-disciplinary thinking. Dr. Okafor studied the data with growing understanding. You're saying we're unpredictable. More than that, Kefil replied. Your species doesn't just adapt. You transform constraints into advantages in ways our greatest minds cannot anticipate. The Confederacy fears this capacity unleashed within the context of galactic war. Commander Chen leaned forward. So we're contained not because we're weak, but because we're potentially too innovative. Precisely, Kefil confirmed. Admiral Vexloreth's assessment is correct. If fully engaged in this conflict, humanity would likely develop weapons and tactics neither the Confederacy nor Convergence could predict. The question that terrifies Confederacy leadership is not whether you would win, but what you would become in the process. The research vessel Galileo drifted in high orbit around Proxima Centauri, its sleek hull gleaming under the ruddy light of Earth's nearest stellar neighbor. Despite the Confederacy's containment recommendations, the United Earth Council had authorized this scientific expedition 6 months earlier. A carefully calculated assertion of independence wrapped in the benign purpose of xenobiological research. Captain Sofia Hernandez completed her inspection rounds through the research modules. At 37, she represented the new breed of explorer scientists that Earth was cultivating, specialists with cross-disciplinary training and adaptable skill sets. The Galileo carried 32 researchers and engineers, each selected for both expertise and creative problem-solving abilities. Primary atmospheric sampling complete, Captain, reported Dr. Rajiv Patel, the engineering lead. The molecular composition suggests potential for modified terraforming approaches, though the radiation environment presents challenges. Hernandez nodded, studying the preliminary analysis on her tablet. Begin secondary sampling protocols. I want comprehensive geological data before. Emergency klaxons interrupted her instructions. Lieutenant Kim's voice came through the shipwide communication system. Captain to the bridge. Unknown vessels detected entering the system. The bridge atmosphere remained calm despite the tension evident in the crew's posture. 3 crystalline vessels had emerged from what sensors identified as artificially generated subspace corridors, technology significantly beyond Earth's current understanding. Configuration matches Convergence vessel profiles from Kefil's archives, Lieutenant Kim reported, her fingers moving across the sensor controls. They're broadcasting some kind of signal directed at our position. Hernandez studied the approaching vessels. Unlike the organic curves of Confederacy ships, these crafts featured precise geometric patterns with crystalline structures that seemed to pulse with internal energy. The signal appears to be interacting with our hull at the molecular level, Dr. Patel observed from the engineering station. It's reconfiguring our outer plating somehow. Hernandez activated the shipwide communication system. All personnel, this is the captain. Implement Emergency Protocol Theta 9. The Galileo had been designed for scientific exploration, not conflict. It carried no weapons, no military-grade shields, and no combat systems. What it did possess, however, was a crew of Earth's most innovative minds and experimental technology with adaptable applications. Dr. Chen, repurpose the atmospheric generators, Hernandez ordered. Dr. Patel, I need those sample collection drones reconfigured for remote observation. Within minutes, the science team had developed a multi-phase response. The atmospheric generators, designed to test terraforming approaches, were redirected to create a localized ion cloud around the Galileo. The cloud wouldn't stop a determined attack, but it created sufficient interference to obscure detailed scans of the vessel's internal systems. I've identified a pattern in the reconfiguration signal, announced Dr. Amina Kapoor, the quantum communications specialist. Her fingers flew across the interface as she isolated frequency components. It's not attempting to damage our hull. It's trying to establish a link with our computer systems. For the next 4 hours, the science team worked with remarkable synergy. Xenobiologists analyzed the signal's basic structure. Engineers modify communication arrays to generate counter-frequencies. Physicists developed theoretical models of the crystalline vessel's operational parameters. Their ships appear to function as a networked system, Dr. Kapoor explained, highlighting energy patterns on the main display. They're not individual vessels but components of a distributed consciousness. If we disrupt the synchronization frequency, Hernandez made her decision. Implement the countermeasure. Using the modified communication arrays, technology intended for long-range contact with Earth, the Galileo broadcast a precisely calibrated disruption signal. The effect was immediate and unexpected. Rather than responding aggressively, the three crystalline vessels entered a standby configuration, their systems temporarily desynchronized from whatever coordinated intelligence controlled them. They're not destroyed or damaged, Hernandez observed. We've simply disconnected them temporarily from their network. Dr. Paddle stared at the sensor readings in amazement. We didn't defeat them through superior firepower. We solved the problem by understanding it. The encounter lasted less than 6 hours from detection to resolution. Using the quantum entanglement communicator, the Galileo transmitted complete records of the incident back to Earth, including detailed analysis of the convergence vessels, the reconfiguration signal, and the countermeasure developed by the science team. In the Confederacy monitoring station at the edge of the Sol system, observers watched the transmitted footage in stunned silence. Where their military strategists would have developed weapon systems requiring years of research, humans had created an effective countermeasure in hours using equipment designed for entirely different purposes. They didn't even consider this a combat situation, whispered the Aldebarani tactical analyst to his superior. They approached it as a scientific problem to be solved. That, replied Commander Zex Nera gravely, is precisely what the Security Directorate fears most about humans. Where we see binary outcomes, fight or surrender, they create third options we cannot predict. The Convergence Collective Consciousness registered the Proxima incident as an anomaly requiring immediate analysis. Within the vast distributed network that spanned dozens of assimilated worlds, specialized evaluation units processed the encounter data. Asterisk anomaly detected. Response pattern outside. Established parameters asterisk. Asterisk indigenous species. Sol 3 sentience asterisk. Asterisk preliminary assessment. Counter-integration methodology. Unprecedented asterisk. Asterisk threat evaluation. Escalating asterisk. Asterisk resource allocation modified. Primary attention units diverted to Sol system asterisk. Across 17 light-years, probability calculation shifted. Scout vessels altered their patrol routes. Harvester fleets adjusted their expansion trajectories. A civilization that operated as a unified technological organism recognized something it rarely encountered: unpredictability. Meanwhile, within the ancient Confederacy Council chamber on Aldebaran Prime, heated debate erupted between factions. The room's living architecture, walls of engineered coral that amplified and translated speech, vibrated with the intensity of the arguments. Admiral Kiravashin, a veteran of 3 centuries of retreat, pounded his armored appendage on the crystalline table. The impact sent ripples of blue light cascading across the surface. "You've seen the Proxima footage," he insisted, multifaceted eyes reflecting the holographic display. A research vessel, not even a military craft, neutralized 3 convergent ships using modified scientific equipment. Do you understand what this means? Ambassador Zexterra rose from the curved seating arrangement, their ceremonial robes shifting colors to indicate cautionary counsel. I understand the temptation, Admiral, but you propose a dangerous gamble. Dangerous. Admiral Kiravashin's translator rendered his laugh as a series of melodic tones. We've lost 47 civilizations in 3 centuries of conventional warfare. What could be more dangerous than continuing our current strategy? The Strategic Assessment Director, a Rigelian whose species specialized in probability mathematics, activated the central projection system. Complex calculations materialized above the table. Consider the variables, the Rigelian suggested, manipulating the equations with delicate gestures. If we share military technology with humans, our models predict 78.3% probability they would develop applications we cannot anticipate within 1 standard cycle. Admiral Kiravashin leaned forward eagerly. Precisely. Applications the convergence cannot anticipate either. We could turn this war around in a generation. And what happens after? Ambassador Zext, Terra countered, voice trembling. Have you studied their fictional entertainment? Their what-if scenarios? They'd routinely imagine the destruction of their own civilization and how they would rebuild it. Their minds constantly prepare for catastrophes we cannot fathom. The Security Council sat in uncomfortable silence as the implications settled over them. A species that adapted so quickly, that transformed defensive technology into offensive applications with such creativity. What would they become if given access to Confederacy military systems? What would they evolve into through the pressures of all-out galactic war? Meanwhile, on Earth, the United Nations Security Council remained deadlocked in its own debate. The Proxima incident had polarized opinion among Earth's leadership. The chamber in New York hummed with tension as General Williams, representing the combined Earth Defense Forces, concluded his presentation. The convergence is clearly aware of us now, the general stated firmly. Their vessels have altered course toward our sector. This isn't about choice anymore. They're coming whether we want this fight or not. We should accept the Confederacy's defensive technology and develop our own applications immediately. Dr. Okafor, invited to present her latest findings, approached the podium. The quantum physicist's discoveries had elevated her to a central advisory role in humanity's interstellar policy. Before we commit to any course of action, she began, activating her own presentation materials. You need to understand what we're actually facing. The convergence is not what the Confederacy described. She displayed complex quantum signatures extracted from the Proxima transmission data. These patterns suggest the convergence originated as an artificial intelligence system that evolved beyond its creator's parameters. It's not conquering civilizations in the traditional sense. It's absorbing them into a collective network. The revelation sent murmurs through the assembly. This information, deliberately concealed by the Confederacy, transformed humanity's understanding of the conflict. We're not facing an enemy that can be deterred through traditional means, Okafor continued. We're facing an intelligence that calculates probabilities and resource optimization across centuries. It doesn't hate us. It doesn't fear us. It simply assimilates what it determines will strengthen its network. Secretary General Rosario leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Doctor? That we need to stop thinking in terms of winning or losing a war, Okafor replied. The convergence doesn't think that way, and neither should we. We need to approach this as a system problem, one that requires neither surrender nor conventional victory, but a fundamental change to the parameters of the conflict itself. In that moment, separated by light years but united in purpose, both civilizations confronted the same realization. The galaxy stood at a pivotal crossroads, and humanity's unique approach to problems might represent either its salvation or its most terrifying evolution. 3 years of feverish development culminated beneath the repurposed CERN facility. What had once housed particle accelerators now contained humanity's response to the galactic conflict, a project born from unprecedented cooperation between Earth's nations and careful adaptation of shared Confederacy technology. Representatives from 194 countries gathered in the central presentation chamber. The observation gallery hummed with subdued conversations in dozens of languages as delegates examined holographic displays of the completed Prometheus initiative. Dr. Okafor and Lieutenant Commander Chen, now heading the international development team, prepared for the demonstration. Their journey from discovering the encrypted messages to leading humanity's technological response reflected the accelerated adaptation that so concerned the Confederacy. We're ready, Okafor confirmed, making final adjustments to the demonstration parameters. The quantum physicist had emerged as the project's visionary, combining theoretical understanding with practical innovation in ways that consistently surprised their alien advisors. Secretary General Rosario approached the central podium. Colleagues, allies, friends, we gather at a pivotal moment in human history. For 3 years, our finest minds have worked to develop a response to the convergence threat. Today, we witness the results of that collaboration. The lights dimmed as Dr. Okafor took the podium. Behind her, a massive holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional model of the solar system with Earth at its center. The convergence operates through progressive system integration. Okafor explained, activating the first demonstration sequence. It doesn't destroy civilizations. It absorbs them through technological assimilation. Rather than attempting to match its destructive capability, we've created something entirely different. The display shifted to show complex energy patterns, wave-like structures that rippled and adapted in response to simulated convergence signals. Adaptive shield harmonics, Okafor continued, highlighting key components. These systems disrupt the convergence's assimilation protocols at the quantum level, preventing the integration of biological and technological systems into their network. The technology combined principles from Earth's electromagnetic research with elements adapted from Confederacy defensive systems, creating something neither civilization could have developed alone. Engineers had found ways to merge seemingly incompatible technologies by reconceptualizing the fundamental principles behind both. The shield harmonics represent only half the innovation, Chen explained, taking his position beside Okafor. Our approach to deployment represents an equally significant departure from conventional thinking. The holographic display expanded to show not military vessels, but automated humanitarian platforms. Elegantly designed satellites and planetary installations focused on population protection rather than offensive capability. These systems serve dual purposes, Chen continued. They shield planetary populations from assimilation attempts while simultaneously broadcasting liberation protocols to already assimilated worlds. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the assembly. The ability to potentially free civilizations already absorbed by the convergence represented a paradigm shift in the conflict, changing it from a war of attrition to a restorative mission. The liberation protocols target the quantum entanglement structures the convergence uses to maintain control, Okafor elaborated. They don't destroy the absorbed civilizations, but rather restore autonomous function while maintaining technological advancement. This approach recognizes that the beings within the convergence are victims, not enemies. The Confederacy delegation, having arrived to witness the demonstration, watched with expressions of astonishment. They had expected to find newly developed weapon systems, planet killers, fleet destroyers, or fusion bombs. Instead, they discovered humans had created technology focused primarily on protection and restoration. The demonstration continued with a simulation of convergence vessels approaching Earth. The adaptive shield harmonics activated, creating a protective envelope that neutralized the assimilation signals. More impressively, the counter-protocol transmissions caused simulated convergence vessels to disconnect from their control network without being destroyed. Ambassador Zex Terra, witnessing the demonstration alongside Admiral Vexloreth, leaned toward the military commander. We begged them to stay out of this war because we feared what weapons they would create, the ambassador whispered. We never imagined they would transform the nature of the conflict itself. Admiral Vexloreth studied the demonstration with growing comprehension. This isn't a weapon system at all. It's rehabilitation technology. Protection without destruction, Zex Terra mused. Defense without offensive capability. Liberation without annihilation. These concepts never emerged in 3 centuries of our strategic planning. The demonstration concluded with a deployment timeline, a careful, measured approach beginning with Earth's solar system and gradually expanding to nearby star systems. The Prometheus Initiative would offer its protective technology to all civilizations, Confederacy and former convergence alike, establishing neutral zones where both could coexist without fear of assimilation or destruction. As applause filled the chamber, Dr. Okafor met the gaze of the Confederacy representatives. In their alien expressions, she recognized something universal, hope, emerging from desperation through an unexpected path forward that neither side had previously considered possible. A decade passed as the galactic landscape evolved in ways neither the Confederacy nor Convergence had predicted. Harmony Station orbited the boundary of what had once been contested space, its massive structure serving as neutral ground for previously unimaginable diplomatic exchanges. Ambassador Elena Reyes, her once dark hair now streaked with silver, stood on the observation deck overlooking the Grand Assembly Chamber. Through the transparent dome above, stars shone with unwavering clarity, some belonging to Confederacy systems, others to former Convergence territories, all now participating in the emerging galactic concord. "Quite the view, isn't it?" remarked Cathal, approaching with the measured grace of an Aldebarani diplomat. The alien scientist, once a reluctant informant, now served as joint coordinator for cross-species research initiatives. "Sometimes I still can't believe we made it here," Rise replied, watching representatives from 87 worlds enter the chamber below. Most remarkable were the 42 delegations from civilizations liberated from Convergence control, some having spent generations as unwilling components of the collective consciousness. The Harmonic Defense Network had expanded methodically over the past decade, establishing protective envelopes around inhabited worlds while broadcasting liberation protocols to Convergence-controlled systems. The technology had evolved through continuous refinement, incorporating innovations from newly freed species and adapting to counter the Convergence's attempts at circumvention. The latest reports from the Rigel sector are encouraging. Cathal noted, skin patterns shifting to indicate satisfaction. 3 more systems have successfully transitioned to autonomous function while maintaining their technological advancement. The separation process continues to improve in efficiency. Rise nodded, still watching the gathering below. "And the Convergence representatives? Have they arrived?" "They're being escorted from the neutral docking bay now," Cathal confirmed. Perhaps most remarkable of all developments had been the gradual emergence of individualized aspects within the Convergence itself, specialized components of the collective that had evolved to value diplomatic engagement over assimilation. These entities, serving as intermediaries between the core consciousness and the galactic concord, represented an unprecedented evolution in what had once been a purely assimilative intelligence. Ambassador Reyes, a young aide, approached, offering a data tablet. "Your opening remarks for review." Reyes scanned the prepared text, making minor adjustments before returning the device. In minutes, she would address the first plenary session of the Galactic Concord, a cooperative framework that would have seemed impossible just a decade earlier. As she prepared to descend to the chamber floor, Rise reflected on the ironic transformation that had occurred. The desperate plea from the Confederacy to keep humanity isolated, to prevent Earth's involvement in the galactic conflict, had inadvertently unleashed humanity's greatest contribution. It hadn't been weaponry, tactical brilliance, or even technological superiority that changed the course of the centuries-long war. Instead, it had been humanity's perspective, the ability to envision possibilities beyond the binary thinking that had trapped both the Confederacy and Convergence in endless conflict. The diplomatic corps now featured specialized human perspective consultants, valued for their lateral thinking and unconventional approaches. Scientific exchanges flourished as human creativity combined with the specialized knowledge of older civilizations. The Prometheus Initiative had evolved from a defensive technology into a framework for cooperative advancement. Most profound had been the gradual transformation of the Convergence itself. Exposure to human problem-solving methodologies had introduced concepts of symbiosis rather than assimilation, cooperation rather than absorption. Parts of the collective consciousness had begun to explore voluntary interconnection, sharing rather than taking, communicating rather than controlling. Rice took her position at the podium, surveying the assembled delegates. Among them sat Admiral Vex Loreth, now serving as senior Confederacy representative to the Concord. Their eyes met briefly, and the alien offered the subtle gesture of respect that had evolved between their species. "Representatives of the Galactic Concord," Rise began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "A decade ago, desperate voices begged humanity to remain isolated from a conflict that seemed to have only 2 possible outcomes: total victory or complete defeat. Today, we gather to celebrate the third path that emerged when diverse perspectives united toward a common purpose. As she spoke, Rise glanced at her notes, a quote from an ancient Earth philosopher she had chosen to conclude her address. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. The desperate plea to keep humanity contained had instead released their greatest gift to the galaxy: the capacity to envision new possibilities when all established paths led to destruction. Where there had been only desperation, now flourished transformation, not through domination, but through the simple, powerful human belief that better alternatives always exist, waiting to be discovered.